Marc Emery has just been released after a 4.5-year imprisonment in the United States. He and his wife Jodie have done tremendous work to make cannabis legal in both Canada and the United States. The Canadian cannabis activists were nominated for the Cannabis Culture Awards, a special award for those who make a difference when it comes to the acceptance of cannabis in all its forms the world over.
Obvious conclusion is it's necessary to go to jail for a long time in order to get this award if you're essentially a political activist, right? Because it shows dedication and sacrifice, and there's a lot of time involved there. It's 25 years of fairly concerted activisms.
We received the news, I was like, wow, look at this. So I think it's fantastic.
I really enjoyed hearing stories about Richard Branson and the Global Commission on Drugs, that, you know, how they accepted their award and what they did. So that was fun, being in that kind of company. I went to the Cannabis Cup in November, I think it's November 22nd, 1994. And I was invited by Steve Hagar, the editor of High Times, to come and give a report on a panel on progress around the world from Canada, give the Canadian perspective. And so I was happy to do that. And I was proud to say that, you know, we have recently legalized books and magazines about marijuana. And, you know, we now have hemp stores, you know, going across the country, following on a model I established, and that's really good. But essentially that's all there was really to report, right? But because our movement had been asleep in Canada for over a decade, nothing had happened. The police had managed to put every head shop out of business, all books and magazines were banned, and out of this slumber came my campaign, and then other things percolated, right? But when I got to sit beside, I was with Mary Kane from Hemp World in the United States, and Mishka from France was there. She remembers this day. And then Ben Dronkers got up and gave his report from Holland, and it had so much Ben Dronkers swagger that to this day I think it's so cool. He got up and he says, well, we have sold about 1 million seeds in the past year and about 10 million seeds in the past 15 years, which has produced like 70,000 metric tons of marijuana, destabilized many foreign governments, and created, you know, all sorts of, and he's going on, and I'm thinking, oh my God, now he's just boasting about making books and magazines illegal in Canada. It seems so puny by comparison. So when Ben got up, and he seemed to have like this miniature structure going where he was financing everything and able to do so by selling these seeds. So spontaneously I got up while he was going on making these wonderful statements. I got up and I yelled everywhere, I love that guy, I love that guy, I'm going to do exactly what he's doing. I remember saying that, and then I sat down, and as soon as I got back we started selling seeds. And then we started becoming, without question, the biggest seed distributor ever.
He knew he was leaving in 2009, so I had to take over our retail store, our smoking lounge, Cannabis Culture online, because we stopped the magazine, and Pot TV, and I also did public speaking a lot. I was doing media, and more I would be asked to do things. So I never asked to go and speak anywhere, but I was offered many opportunities, and I wouldn't say no because it was very important to speak. Well, I can. So I was always on the go, and we grew. In the time he was gone, the company had 19 employees when he left, and then I grew it to 28, and I've spoken on some very high-profile stages and met people in positions of power, and now I have the opportunity to run at the federal level for the government of Canada. So kept very busy all this time, that's for sure.
And I've been in prison for 4.5 years up till recently, but can't help but think how much the movement has advanced. And that's a really good thing, because when I started 25 years ago, and the kind of ambitions of what I would like to see happen in Canada and around the world, from an era where nothing was happening, and now we see this tremendous growth in the political activity, in marijuana growing culture, seeds, retail stores, you know, the money that's being put into new inventions like vaporizers and all this art glass that's existing, and we've seen what's happening in Spain, Ireland, England, Austria. So there's lots of great stories going on, and that makes me feel good, like there was something worthwhile about any sacrifices I may have made, that, you know, at least we got the good end of the deal. Like, the future is looking good. And the next election, Jodie's hoping to be the nominee in Vancouver East for the Liberal Party. It's going to be a big deal. She's the leading contender, and I would say likely nominee. But that's another year of kind of interesting political jockeying too, because it's a big deal in Canada with marijuana legalization. It's in the news every day.
When his sentence was coming to near an end, you know, the year, brand new year, everyone knew he was getting out. I was speaking a lot about that at conferences, but then there was the news that got out I wanted to run for the federal office, so that was a massive national story for months about that. So connecting his imprisonment, his activism with the changes in America, the changes in Canada, the potential.
People have asked if I'm embittered because these things were happening while I was in jail, and that was one of the best days of my life in jail, the morning after Colorado and Washington legalized, or even because I was on an earlier time zone in Mississippi. I wasn't even able to tap into the television once the results would have been known, so I had to wait the next morning. But exit polls have been predicting good things for it. So next morning was awesome. So many people on the compound at the prison were talking about it, and it was a big deal. I was pretty convinced it was a big deal around the world, that was the most important thing that had happened that election night in 2012. Obama got re-elected. Yes, that's true, but I say historically that's of less importance than what happened in Colorado and Washington.
Marc's seeds were sent to many people, and they grew medicine legally, which contributed towards the attitudes changing and allowing legalization to happen, and people still thank him today. And even in Washington state, the legalization bill there was sponsored by Marc's prosecutor. His prosecutor, after Marc got extradited, decided to advocate for legalization. And I was in the Washington legislature with him saying legalize it. And then he came to Vancouver and said legalize it. And then he allowed Marc and I to be official endorsers of the legalization bill he sponsored. So a lot of things changed over that time while Marc was gone. But I believe that he planted those seeds of freedom, as his phrase was, to overgrow the government. A lot of the early work was his.
That's well said.
I'd like to say thank you to the sponsors for bringing us here, because Marc did sacrifice everything and gave everything away, so we're traveling on the benefit of activists, students for sensible drug policy, and people involved in the industry who are helping us get to the people out here, so I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
Cannabis Culture Awards. Marc the Future. Proudly presented by the Hash, Marijuana and Hemp Museum.